All right, everybody, away we go. Welcome to today's call. It is Friday, September 11th, 2020. We remember September 11th and all those people.
All right, everybody, away we go. Welcome to today's call. It is Friday, September 11th, 2020.
We remember everybody who lost their lives in the tragedy in New York today. Sad day for all of us that were affected by it in one way or another. So we just will keep them in mind here today as we do this. But Friday is a happy day, and it is our favorite day here at the TRC, where we pay close attention to everything sales training. So I'm going to get right after it today. Now, I have muted your mics on the way in, just so you know. I would prefer that you stayed nice and quiet while other people are talking, and be respectful of just keeping it muted. And then you can unmute the minute that you have something that you want me to review or discuss. The mastermind has been on a tear lately and some fantastic topics and improving this business, and that all trickles into this call here, where yesterday we had a fabulous campfire call. If you're not familiar with the Realty Classroom campfire call, for all of you that are internal members or members of those teams, we go over the plans for buyers and sellers over and over and over, so that you are rooted in being protected, that when somebody asks you why you, or you're in the thick of something. Allison Egan had a wonderful analogy. She said it's like having a well-lit street, so that you don't get mugged in the middle of a deal, a telephone call, an open house. You always can default back to a core plan. That training happens every other week, where we go over the buyer and seller course. You should block it out if you are an internal member of the TRC, meaning that you are part of a team and you're invited internally to the Zoom calls. You should be putting those on your calendar. They should be mandatory for everybody, because that's what we base all this scripting on. Now, having said that, and you can imagine a platform upon which we build. We start with the core plans, the buyer and seller plan, and then we move on top of those to context. So when we do the sales training calls, they are very contextually oriented, meaning, are we talking about a buyer or a seller who's in an open house situation, a telemarketing situation, and then getting deeper into that. And as this training has gone on, one of the things that we talked about yesterday in the campfire was that one of the most, obvious problems that I see out there that no agent is trying to solve is, where are you going? So when we go to this scripting today and we talk about the telemarketing script, and we're going to talk about some of the buy side stuff, we don't talk about it enough. And that's what's bubbled up out of the mastermind work, that the buy side is a big problem for sellers. So as much as I preach that you all need to be going and paying attention to the sell side, you are going to run into buy side issues for the seller. They don't know where they're going. I can't tell you how many times. Right now, I have 3 of them. They are intense, and we are trying to juggle, where is the seller going? And the sellers get, quite frankly, freaked out. So you might get a, hey, why are you moving? Well, because I got to get out of here. Oh, that's a 10. And we get all excited and we stop thinking. Okay. Do you have somewhere to go? This is going to be a topic we put right on the table from now on. Do you have somewhere to go? Presuming that I give you my plan, and with or without me, you can sell it. Have you really thought about, where will you go? Because if you haven't resolved that first, then really you're a buyer first. I'm not saying that you would buy first. See, this is sometimes when we don't think. Okay, we don't do some thinking. We say to ourselves, "Oh, are you buying or selling?" And we don't really think about, what's it like to be this person in that moment of time. What's it like, right? And that's really an important part of this. If we don't say that the seller is freaked out about this, or whatever the case is, and we're not thinking, then we're not doing our job, right? We're thinking, geez, if I were them, I'd be panicked too. If I were downsizing and I was 83 years old and I didn't know where I was going, I'd be freaked out. And that's exactly what we have to deal with here, listening. So I'm going to add in now, as we evolve, not just, hey, why are you thinking about moving? And then listen to that. Once you hear it, do you have somewhere to go? Do you know where you're going? Is it secure already? Are you comfortable that it's secure? Because This is the true caring for somebody in this context. And you really need to think about that when you're going through this. Okay. So very, 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 very important. All right. Let's get the mics opened up here. Gail, did you want to add to that at all? Only because you and I talked about that a lot yesterday. You can unmute yourself, and anything you want to add to what I just said there?
Well, I think it's really important, and the issue came up with Amanda, Danny, that we didn't really, like, I created from the X-Mind, Rebecca did, and then I tweaked it, the beats that you do. Well, all of the beats in there, none of them talked about what if the seller needed to buy first.
Right.
Amanda, I listened to the call. She did really well, but she needed to have some things to talk about. What is your buying criteria? And she actually was talking with somebody and said, well, they wanted to live in Professorville in Palo Alto, and there isn't any under $5 million. And so he wants to stay where he's at. And I looked at the house, and he thinks he can enlarge it, add on, and he can't because the square footage of the lot is too small. So I gave her some scripts to go to him and talk with him, because he'd be motivated at a 10 if they could find the home. And that meant that we could help him buy the property and sell the property. So if he's going to buy something for $3 million and then he has to sell his for $3 million, that's helping a lot and making our business great.
Yeah. Well, again, and that's a lot of money on the table too. So I think the reason for paying attention to this very closely and becoming better listeners. I mean, again, I get it when you're doing sales training. The difficulty here is, making sure that we have the things in order, but we're not listening, Gail. We've just stopped listening. And then, like I said yesterday, what happens when we stop listening and it's not going our way, we throw the equivalent of a tantrum, right?
Well, Amanda did listen to them. She just we didn't have anything in writing about if somebody needs to sell. So Amanda was listening. That's why she brought it up. Yeah. She goes, I don't know what I was supposed to say.
I was going back in time. Yeah. Well, here's what you should say. When you default, let's go back to what we talked about yesterday about the campfire. What you should say is what you feel you should say at that moment in time if you're ever lost.
Exactly.
Now, training, because that means you can never go wrong caring for people. And that's essentially what we're doing. If I were you, how would I feel? And I think it's that empathy that, you go back to Amanda's fine. She's doing fine. But I was sort of looking back at our history. I wasn't talking about her anecdote. I was saying more so it's when you look back in history at where we've been, we get so stuck on scripting and repeating it in this quote unquote role play training that certainly drills it into our head. But what the old school, training was this rinse and repeat. And listening wasn't being taught as a core piece of it. Mm-hmm. So that kind of training can rub out any sense of empathy. So you would start to hear telemarketers, you would start to hear people when they would go in and do an open house or a listing presentation, they were going through the training just fine. And they would say, well, I did what you said to do, but I still didn't get it. And that leaves that gap of humanity. Like we didn't make a connection. Imagine doing a perfect presentation and then not having any connection. How frustrating a situation is that for us all to be in, right? And the reason that's happening, Gail, is because we're white-knuckled on the training to get it so perfectly right. And I do understand the value in that. But we're getting so white-knuckled, we stop listening and we're trying to perform. And I keep saying this. The best thing you can do is, why they should use you is, remember one thing. If we threw all scripting away, because you have a plan. And if you can default to the well-lit path that Allison Egan gave it that metaphor, if you can just say, well, where is this person at in the process of selling and buying at the same time if they're at? I mean, do they even know that they're running around unrepresented and colliding into things? Because I can just start there. Have they already gone and made an offer? Because I can just start there. You can always backtrack. So the default for every situation is, look, I have a plan against which I can help you. I don't know where you're at. Okay. You keep cutting me off. I wanted to go through some of the scripting here to, be organized, but you're cutting me off. I'm saying your internal thinking. Where are you at in the process? Let's just talk for a second. Slow down. because I bet before you hang up on me, I can help you. If we can have that internal attitude, I think it's a better play scale to then be trained upon that versus saying, all right, train, 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 train. Oh, by the way, now be human.
Well,
Right?
I told Amanda, I said, I'm not into perfection. If I was, I wouldn't be a business owner, but I'm into progress. And that's the important thing. And so if we understand that, if you don't, the first line, because, I mean, really get that in there, informational package. But then when you start conversations with them on their why, I said, there isn't always the same script. These are just some of the objections you can put out there. But if you're talking to another human being, and I was doing that the other day to somebody that had a property in 2019, and we're sending out the package, and he's very interested in seeing it. And the fact is I had a conversation with him.
Right.
And it wasn't all about scripting. And that's what's great about Amanda. I could say this about her now, probably all the telemarketers. She's really listening to them. There's this one call where she went in and he got her talking about something else. And she came back and she said, well, it's such a nice home. Why are you selling? And he goes, oh, and she didn't miss a beat. So that's the important thing. She was listening. He went somewhere else, and then she came back and said, oh, I understand. Then she went to the second beat and then the third beat. So I think it's really important to listen to what they have to say, but at the same time, not to get off the track, because we still need to know why they're selling.
There's no doubt. Look, the greatest thing about strategies and formulas is that, we all know that life is going to take us outside those guardrails. But if you can keep one toe inside the lane, you can always pull somebody back, because that's the best way to help somebody, right? I mean, the truth is, you and I have learned over time that you can muscle your way and help somebody that way because you're just quote unquote, experienced. I find, and I know that you do at this point in time, that reliance on experience is actually not giving the optimal service level. That if we can just reel ourselves in and we can get ourselves back to a formula, you can serve. So having said that, I am going to shift over to this formulaic approach. By the way, Jessica, I do have a call from you and you had some questions for me. Let me deal with this and then you're second in line, okay? So you can just say hello and confirm that you just heard me say that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So
Mhm.
we'll come to you next.
Okay.
Gail, so one of the challenges, we talked about this buy side being a huge issue on the sell side, right? That people are a lot of the times making a double move. So unless, of course, you're working in the first time home buyer category, it's probably pretty typical that they're going to either buy something else or rent. Right. So, and oftentimes the anxiety, and I get the whole idea of getting stuck with two homes concept, but that's only part of it. It's just the physical process of moving. In fact, right before the sales training call, I was coaching one of my clients. I have several clients who had that same anxiety. One is resolved. Two of the others were in the process of trying to resolve. And it's challenging. But like I said to Laura, the formula for dealing with challenge is when you feel yourself welling up emotionally, get a yellow pad of paper or a spiral notebook and always keep it handy. And through your brain, down the length of your arm, through your hand, write down what are the facts that you're dealing with right now. Okay, the fact is, for example, we need a certificate of occupancy on this house. The fact is that the floors now need to be included before that. The fact is we're shooting for an October 31st deal. So the question is, if those are the facts that all need to be part and parcel of this, and he's emotional, I'm emotional, everybody's emotional, buyers, we just look at the facts and we just deal with them. That's all. We say, look, the logic of the moment is at October 31st. It sounds like a very reasonable extended time based on where you're at. And you reiterate the facts. You've done this, you've done this, you've done this. By Saturday, you have the next piece of this. Wonderful. And it will only be September 12th. So you have all the way to October 31st, which is reasonable because you have everybody lined up. And I understand where you're at. So here's the logic. Let's get the purchase and sales agreement signed, and we'll deal with it as we go along. Presuming there's a disaster and you can't make the date, we'll deal with it then. But trying to deal with that on top of what we need to deal with now, a signing of a purchase and sale, is not the right thing to do. It's not reasonable. So I just want to give you all that's a buy side issue, and he owns the other property and it's right across the street. But can you imagine that this house hasn't sold because that was never dealt with? right across the street. So the issues oftentimes are right there and they're solvable, but the methodology through which you do it is formulaic. Because you're going to listen to me and go, well, that's you, Danny, and you have all this experience and you can think on your feet about this stuff. Well, not always. I don't always have the same person. Yes, I might have a similar situation with moving, but I have to think strategically to keep myself in check. Okay, so that's very similar in the second beat. So Gail, help me kind of get to that buy side beat that we talked about. Did you want to deal with that as a when you say Amanda wasn't trained on a piece of it? I think one of the things, and I've got it up on the screen in front of me, that I wanted to deal with. So all you on the Zoom call, you'll be able to see it. The rest of you won't. So I'll try to articulate it. I
No,
think.
it makes me think, remember the universal callback script where it said, are you thinking about buying first or selling first? I mean, that popped into my head because
Sure.
we, but I don't know if it, so when they say why, and they say, well, our motivation is at 2 now because we can't find a house. And that's where I want to get on the phone. And because he thinks Professorville is the only place in Palo Alto, where Stanford is. But there are other places. And he has a small, well, so the point is I'm going off the wrong way.
Let me help you.
Okay.
It's easier than that. You were close with starting off with this concept of a universal callback script where are you thinking about buying or selling first? It is a decent enough question to try to root this out. But I think in the context, let's stay, for example, in the context of expired, since that's a hot topic for this group, right? If you're talking to somebody there have been a lot of situations where we've, coached. When I've gotten some of these calls into me, what was said was, hey, I tried to buy this one house, we didn't get it, right? It's that I tried to do this buy thing, then it didn't happen. Now I just don't see anything and I retreated, so I'm now at 2.
Danny, I think it's not frequently stated objections. I think it's real deal where it has to be part of this, for me, I have it kind of beat 1, 2, 3, 4. And if there's that beat where they say, well, after the why, that they couldn't find the house or whatever, I think there should be substance in there, content. Like, oh, like you were saying yesterday, did you get a net sheet? If you were looking for the property and you couldn't find it, where else would you want to live? I mean, things like that. Did you get?
Yeah, it's even easier. Let's just stick it right below where I was going.
Okay.
1 to 10, how motivated you to sell? That's kind of after that. Do you have somewhere to go? You know what I mean? I'm just going to put it in there as a placeholder right now. I don't know that that's exactly where this is, but this is really the rooting out of the solvable problem, right? So when you get to the second beat, oh, by the way, looks like a beautiful property. Why are you trying to sell it? You let them answer. They give this circumstance. Wow, it's a pretty big reason. On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated? I'm a 10. Really? Do you have somewhere to go already? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like that, Gail. It embodies, I think.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Who said that?
Amanda.
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda. Yeah, right.
Oh, that sounds good. It flows nicely for a person that's like in our seat. That
Yep.
flows nicely there.
Yeah, exactly, because it's conversational. That's why you reacted to it, right? So what Gail had was the right thing. Are you buying or selling first? That's not really the way we talk. It's a good question. The premise is a good question. Don't get me wrong. But I think what's making scripting so difficult to understand why we do what we do is because we're trying to memorize stuff. And you just had a real telemarketer's reaction to that language because I think it's conversational, achieves the same goal. Would you agree? Yeah, did I lose you, Amanda?
I would agree.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I was talking to you. Sorry, I should have been.
Sorry.
All good. Yeah, all good. Amanda, anything you want to weigh in on all that? I mean, because it's pretty straightforward that I think that's the next evolution of getting better. If somebody's really there, do you have somewhere to go if they're moving? I mean, I'll work on this a little bit more, but I think Gail's right. It comes in there as a solvable problem. The reason I was into sort of the frequently stated objections, it's an objection why they wouldn't maybe want Gail over per se, right? So to be able to say, well, do you have somewhere to go? Well, no, not really. And that's part of the problem. Well, one of the things we could also do is make sure that we get you a copy of our buy side plan, because there's a plan for that too. And I, from my experience, I know that a lot of people, if they don't know where they're going and how they're going to get there, their motivation to sell their property is very low. But I know we can solve that one. See,
Right.
now this is why we started doing the campfire calls. I'm not going to rotate anymore. I'm going to do every other week, the buyer and the seller course, because they're too intertwined. And we talked about this in the mastermind with Lee Stillwell yesterday, where he was still trying to get that mentality of, I'll have somebody, just call the buy side or the sell side. I don't know that he said that. He was more say like, we'll just make buy sides, call, sell sides. Well, it doesn't really work like that. It's more sort of the context. If I have internet leads, I'll call my internet leads. If I have probates, I'll call my probates. In either of those piles, you could end up in this conversation with the sell buy issue anyway, or the buy sell issue, right? So a lot of people that would come in, say through an internet lead, they might be looking to buy and they own, right? So it's the sort of Gail, interestingly enough, it's just the other side of the question. Do you have something to sell first, right? On a buy side.
On the buy side, yes.
Yeah, you have something to sell first. In other words, are you unencumbered? Can you do this, right? Do you have somewhere to go? Yeah, I have a rental all lined up. I have corporate housing. Oh, wonderful. So I mean, it's really just the questions should be enough to get what we need to know, but to allow them to say it in their own words, right? If you ask a question is an awkward conversational piece, they're less likely to truly reveal what it is they're thinking, right? And then you almost start to feel like a pest on the phone, I think. We're just from listening to your calls. All right, ladies, Gail, Amanda, good work. Anything you want to add to that? Because I put a little placeholder for now, but I want to get to some of this other stuff today.
You have somewhere to go, and if they say no, I think that I have like a buyer profile form that you fill out so that you can find out what it is that they want, because you've got to have some kind of wireframe for them, for the telemarketer to ask this question, because for me, I don't buy buyer leads. And if I get a buyer, it's at an open house, because I'm done with that lead stuff. So, but I think that there has to be questions that you have to ask besides, if they say they have someplace to go, great. If they do, great. If they don't, how can we help them? And if we're going to help them, we're going to get, send them over the buyer booklet and profile, but also we're going to ask them their criteria so that we can help them and put them on the MLS. And so that's where all that goes in there if they needed help.
Well, we're going to have to not jam it into each contextual thing. We're going to have to come up with a more generalized buyer offer, right? Which we're doing here. So I think that's why I said I just put a footnote to myself instead of trying to tackle the whole thing on a sales, training call. I just think we need to incorporate this core offer of the plan, plus the juxtaposition of it, like we talked about it yesterday, Gail, right?
Yes.
One of the things that scares people away from going to look is they don't know what the money's buying. I can't tell you how many times even people with money that say, well, we're thinking, and this happened right before I left, we're thinking about downsizing to a nice little cottage. They said, look, before I go to Minnesota, let me have Laura send you over some pictures of some sold properties so you can see what the money's buying, and you could tell us, would you have bought any of those types of things? Then if it's yes, we go on the hunt for it, right? So it actually becomes quite similar, which is non-traditional per se. I guess that's the best way I can say it. Most people can't wait to jam down for sales on people. Whereas the insightful information is, if I'm trying to envision where I'm going, and I have some concept of what I would spend, that's the only criteria that I need to know about you, because the first thing I'm going to suggest is, let me give you the plan on how to buy something, period, because that's what I do with my clients. I treat them correctly from the start to the finish. But secondly, I know what you want. You want to see the properties. So I'm going to give you a list of properties that have sold, and I'll look for some things that are for sale. So you can do a little driving around and begin to educate. Because until they see that, their emotional attachment to the place, well, what are we doing this for? Where are we going? But the minute they see the seaside cottage, boom, get rid of that thing, get rid of it. It changes, right?
I
It just
know.
does. It does. It just changes. And that's what happened to me. I didn't really have a massive move to downsize. But the minute my client walked away from a little cottage and it said, wait a minute, this fits me and where I'm at. Done. Buy it. I don't care because at least I've secured where I'm going. Now I can go back to my house, get it ready, and dump it and just rent this until I'm ready. Right. And so that's how quickly it can happen.
Right.
But here I was as the doer of the thing, seeing what the money could buy live. Well, our potential clients can't see that. So we're going to have some sort of a general inclusion in any context, okay, in any context, how to smoothly shift back and forth, because it's what you're doing is you're moving back and forth through the buy side and the sell side, depending on where the conversation goes. I could start off with a seller lead and end up needing a buy side. I could start off with a buy side, ending up in a sell side. So we're going to have to develop the simplistic approach to that, because this is a lot of writing, right? There's a lot of writing here. So we're going to have to, train on the core of moving back and forth. Amanda, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Were you able to attend the campfire yesterday? Were you there?
Yes.
Okay. Takeaways from that as it relates to this.
Well, we talked about this at the end of the campfire, and I think the start of it was that because I'm new,
Yep.
Gail just gave me the sell side just to, not overwhelm me.
Yep.
And then of course I had the situation come up. So that's made it where we're like, oh, where does this fit in what we're doing?
Yep.
So he was I think I just went, like you said, it's just kind of like it was conversational and it did lead into what we're talking about here.
Yep.
But I don't have the rest of the information. That's what Gail's talking about. I don't have the buyer plan yet. I don't have the information on that. So I just don't have that plan or
Good.
that data. So
Good.
I didn't have anything to refer to.
Okay.
And so the reason it came up is because I made a note.
I know,
Sorry.
but hold on. I'm asking a very specific question. After yesterday, because here's the timeline. You didn't know what to do. You learned yesterday. What's your perspective today? I should have asked you a better question.
Oh, it'll be fine going forward, because the reason it came up is I sent a note to Gail and I said, oh, darn, I should have asked him if he wanted to be added to the MLS for properties that were coming up. But I wasn't thinking buy. Like, I don't know how to say it, but I just didn't have it readily available to myself.
You think buy. It's sort of a left brain, right brain thing, right?
Right.
Yeah. Sell, buy, sell. We have to program both sides of the brain, because to function properly as a real estate telemarketer or sales agent, or just in real estate in general, we need to think both. All right, good.
Right.
Let's move on. You did send me some calls, I noticed too. So since I'm talking to you first, my druthers is probably to listen to those and then go to Jessica. Let's grab any context here you want me to know about any one of these in particular. Need focus?
I don't know. I have to hear it again.
All right. Well, let me just listen. Let me grab one of them and we'll go from there. I'll circle back if I have time. I'll come back to one.
Hello.
Lionel?
Yeah.
From Betty Realty. And the reason I'm calling.
You're a realtor?
Keep going. Keep going. You see, you let the tail wag the dog right there. See that? Amanda?
Yes.
Keep your mic open. Okay.
I think yes, I hear that.
You let the tail wag the dog. That's an example of the tail wagging the dog. You had control. Okay. And you're letting this linger. Here's the problem with that. When we let it linger, you just made yourself, in his perception, another realtor. But if you can move through this swiftly enough where he can't do that, then you're in charge of the call. You lose control that quickly. Okay. That's how quickly it happens. Now, I don't know what he's going to say next or why he's going to say what he's going to say. You follow me? But you lost control with the pause. Don't do that. Okay. You're the boss here. And otherwise, you just got lumped in the pile. So let's listen to this.
This is for my 2590 property.
Oh, you do now? Okay, when will it be in the MLS?
Okay. And who cares about that? When will it be in the MLS? Why do you care?
Well, the reason I asked that is
Yep.
there's another one that it didn't record. I thought it was that one, but that's not the one I was trying to send you. I just had to email you the conversation.
Well, that's okay. Well, let's. I'm
It
going to
didn't record, but
hold on,
because
Amanda.
go ahead.
Let's deal with what's in front of us because this is still you making a phone call, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just slow down and let's focus here because these are really easy fixes. So when I challenge you, what I'm doing is trying to edit this stuff out so you don't have to have all these word whiskers. That's what training's about. Let me get all rid of this fat. This is all fat. It's a waste of your time. I'm trying to protect you. So when you pause, he gets to throw you into something. If he tells you he's already listed, you've done your job.
That's it.
Right? You've done your job. It's over. It's as much about taking out the trash per se as it is getting to the next level with a deliverable and better yet, an appointment. You've done your job. This is a filtering process. We have a long list of people, and there's only a very small list in there that can be prospected for Rossetti Realty. Very small.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can, because what you're going to see is as we all become better managers of data, see, nobody ever believes that. Everybody believes that they have to have so much, so much, so much. It's a gluttonous approach to lead generation. And what happens is we never monetize what this really means. If you were able to get Gail at any one point in time, a list of 5, and I'm only saying this because Gail lives where she lives. If you could get Gail 5 real prospects, meaning they heard you, they heard your offer, they accepted it, they asked you to send the information, they received it, and for one reason or another, Gail's gone. They weren't, ready to list yet, but they're in there or whatever. They're real prospects and they have a monetary value. And if we can make that right relationship grow based on service, the monetary value to that is extraordinarily high.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to realize is that we're not going to do business with everybody. And if you can understand the way that the business really works, that it's a small list of prospects that makes us successful, and over time that grows and our ability grows, then you don't have to go here. Because your perception, and I'm saying this generically to everybody who's ever telemarketed, and it's quite frankly caused by us, the manager. The manager's erroneous thinking, inaccurate thinking, that we're supposed to do all things voluminously, getting tons of leads, getting tons of appointments. And Sarah Corey will tell you half of theirs never showed. That's bad management. But we fixed that for the most part. And Gail has definitely fixed it. She knows exactly who she has calling you, not because you're new, but because we have a hyper focus on a particular category where we know there's tremendous value. That's why. So not because you're a rookie. It's got nothing to do with that. You may call only this group of contacts for a very long time, my dear. I'll just tell you that right up front. There is no need to pollute you with volume. None, zero. Because your ability to hyper focus and specialize on listings in that area, the monetary value to you and her is extraordinarily high if we'll get rid of this. But you have to understand how the business works, and that's what I'm teaching you. When you find somebody who has already re-upped with somebody, or somebody who is truly dedicated to going with somebody else, and you've given a couple pokes at that, right? Heather's good at that. She pokes at it a couple times, realize that it is or it isn't, move on. Because every minute that goes by, this is where people always ask about time management. This is how you time manage, by understanding how something really works and refining what you do in those moments, not filling it up with stuff that doesn't get us the result we want. The result we want here is, as the manager, is to know, was this a viable, prospectable contact or not? So easy, right? When you look at it that way, is it viable to prospect this person or not? And you can hear that through these recordings. So it may very well be, and this, he's not, boom, you're done. Time management, get rid of them, because the proof is in the recording. So you have nothing to worry about per se. If I listen to them, Gail listens to them, that's the job well done, right? Because you got him. You eliminated him. Lionel Blanchard is not a guy for her. Let's keep listening though, just in case.
As soon as Monday.
Oh, okay. Then we can contact the agent.
Yeah. Within Gerald. What? Pardon me?
Said I look forward to seeing that.
Okay, very good. Very good. Thank you.
That's fine. How come you're having trouble hearing him? Do we have an issue on our side, or was he just in a bad spot? Because you're tripping over.
He was driving, so it wasn't. There
Got
was
it.
a lot of noise coming through. But I think 2 or 3 that are similar to this, and the reason that it came up is Gail already she talks with me every day, so she came up with just going directly and saying, "Oh, you have a contract with an agent?" Because I was saying, "Oh, when is it going to be an MLS?" Trying to get them to tell me who their agent was if they really have one. Because there's another one that did not record, that I sent you just the notes on it,
Mhm.
and it was one that I followed up on the package, and then he told me he's with his agent. And then I said, "Oh, which I I don't remember what I said exactly, but I was trying to get the name of the agent, and he said, "Oh, yeah, the same one, that I had before in the MLS." So I don't think that he really listed again. I think he was just saying that. So that's why I was like, okay, well, how much do we want to, I just put it in the notes, and then I put it for Gail to
Yeah,
review
yeah.
to see if she
Another,
wants
yeah,
me to reapproach this person next week or
exactly
something.
right. You did the right thing. Enough.
Okay.
It's another enough. We don't need you all, anybody, to be really good at like flipping people. That's sort of a
Okay.
bravado moment for us all. I was able to flip this guy, and he was, there's so many people that really want our help. It's better to just keep wading through them until you start to find them steadily, and you will.
Okay.
Yep, and you will. Good question, though. Good stuff. All right, Jessica, I'm going to move on to yours. Good job, Amanda. Jess,
Yes.
you wanted some questions before or after we do this?
Well, one question is for the call that I sent an expired listing on a farm that this lady's selling.
Yep.
And the other questions are mainly for the O'Connors. They are wondering like what your guys' process are, like how many times you call expires, like with the same person in a day, in a week or whatever. And how often do you book appointments with these expireds? And because he just started the expireds and the packets aren't really working.
Well, no, they're working.
So,
Who are we talking about, Joe or Jerry?
Jerry.
Okay, yeah, they're working. I'll deal with Jerry directly. Okay, that's and everybody wants the metrics. You need your own metrics, and they need to be able to give you enough time to get the metrics. We talked about this yesterday. Tell Joe, you missed the mastermind. You should have been on it. You weren't, so now go back and listen to it. I'm not trying to be a hard guy, but I'm just saying you missed something. You missed that the metrics need to be filled in first, and then we know what you do. Okay, I'll tell you what I think best practices are, and then I can have Autumn weigh in on how she goes about it too. So you'll hear both what I believe best practices would be for anybody, because he's asking me through you a generalized question about what we believe best practices are to get people on the phone. Okay. And I know those guys still have a very, very old school cold calling mentality. So I have to deal with that first. So I'm going to deal with that because we do. Right. The best practice is when you have a new contact. And in this case, I don't want to talk about anything else with you except expireds. They have you doing too much. Okay. So in the time that I asked them to allow you to be dedicated to this job, I need to know how many hours first. He owes me an answer to that first. So do you have a dedicated segment of time dedicated only to expired so your head is right when you do those? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
Try, but no.
Yeah. Okay. That's first. If you won't sit down with them and they won't sit down with you, we're nowhere. Because Autumn's job is dedicated completely to that. Completely. That's her job. Now, we let some probate sneak in. I don't like them. In our case, they take us to places and prices I don't want. So I'm more interested in perfecting our longer term build out. I want to extend the list of potential listings so that she's doing a lot of prospect call follow up in addition to. I'd rather that happen. So I'm very patient with this whole thing. Okay. I said this to them last week on their 101, well, 2 weeks ago now. They need to give you dedicated time to do it because, quite frankly, it's very simple. There is a telemarketing tracker that you need to be filling out. Are you aware that that exists, you personally?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to email it to you, and you're going to have that telemarketing tracker. By the way, this is not available to anybody that is not a coaching member. So ignore what I'm saying here. At the end of the
Okay.
day, it's nothing more than a spreadsheet that was built to make sure we measure you and that you are accountable to hitting certain goals, because he wants there to be some generalized answer to this question, and there's not. The best answer is the answer you give me. So in other words, I spent this many hours doing this thing. And by the way, Joe has access to this site. Did they ever give you access to the telemarketing site?
No,
Okay. So
I
if
didn't know
you're
about
not
it.
going to manage it, you are. And I want you to have access to their account. Okay. So I'm going to
Okay.
open this up so that you can see, and for all the coaching members, you're going to be able to see what it looks like to be held accountable to this body of work. Because if we want to be successful in sales and we're not dedicating the time to start saying this isn't working, that isn't working, you know what's not working? Management. That's what's not working, right? And until
Right.
management is solved, then we're nowhere. So this is what it looks like. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, take a screenshot and say, he's giving you the answer in the form of better management. This is the thing that he wants me to download from the Teachable site, have my own copy, and begin to fill it out.
Okay.
Because this is even beyond what he's asking. These are the absolute 100% details of what's happening. Okay. And the package is there to do nothing more than to support your follow-up call. So if you call, you do the scripting correctly, they say yes to the package and it goes out. What is he expecting it to do? What are you expecting it to do? That's a good question too.
He keeps mainly focusing on like book appointments so they can list.
Okay, we know that. Canada, same thing. I have to tell Tarek and Steve, stop doing that, right?
Right.
Stop doing that. Because he is right, though, in your recordings, which I'm going to listen to. I'm going to listen to you ascending the value ladder or not. Okay?
Yeah.
That's on you. So there's a
Right.
couple parts here that are 100% on you. The answer to his question is not this generic. I'm not going to give him a generic answer. I'm going to tell you, I want to know this week from now to next Friday, how many hours you put in per day, how many call attempts you made, how many live conversations you had, how many packages you were able to send. Those are the most important things. Then if I slide down, this is what we just talked about. How many buyer prospects were created? Seller prospects were created. See how it's all there?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you were able to do what I asked you to do to ascend the value ladder in that call, did you book a phone appointment or an in-person? That's a fair question he has, but we don't just skip to that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The whole idea of offering a package of information, which is a plan plus some solds, is to give them something so that they are ingratiated to you differently from everybody else calling. That's the purpose of it.
Okay.
That's the purpose of it. And you need to definitely understand that. He doesn't, you will. Okay?
Okay.
So
Joe did mention about like time blocking, that I should start doing that, but at the same time, I don't know, what comes first, because he would say, okay, the new leads are important, the sellers are important, this is important. And it's like,
I get it. They just can't manage this situation. So I'm going to manage it for them. Your priority is to call the telemarketing hours and the expireds. If it happens in the morning, great. If it happens in the afternoon, great. Meaning whenever you are going to do only that, you are going to look at them and say, we are going to dedicate at least 10 hours. That's 2 hours per day work to this task, period. Because if you do any less than that, it's just not going to be enough.
okay.
Autumn, you want to weigh in on this so far? You have to unmute.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're covering it. I really don't have anything to say, but
Okay.
without a metric sheet, you're kind of swimming in an open ocean with no buoy whatsoever to look at, to mark where you're at in the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I love that analogy. How the heck do we even answer Gary's question? Right?
I haven't. So my suggestion, yes, we have new leads, new expireds, but I say, well, because we don't use Infusionsoft, call your prospects first, because those are the people that we've sent.
Yeah, but Gail, she's not even there yet. You have to understand the context here.
No, but
They are drowning her. They are drowning her with stuff. Yes, that's hold on. Let me finish. We're not even out of the box yet to call prospects first. We're not even there. We're not even there. I mean, I hear you. She's right, Jessica. That's best practices in this context. So down the line, let's say next week, after you do this, and you have a package that went out, and quite frankly, I would agree with her. If you have a list of everybody that got a package, have you even called them back since they got the package? That's a pretty good question.
I have, and a lot of them didn't answer, or if, some of them are not ready. There's one that contacted me like months later and decided to do an auction. And then another one decided he's moving to California and wants an auction. So everything doesn't happen right away. It seems like it's
Of course not.
Months down the road.
Yeah, of course not. But here's the question.
There are steps to doing this.
Yeah, go ahead, Autumn.
Well, I mean, there's steps, and I can't just throw this down on the floor because I don't know what each management is doing. But, I've always looked at my job like it's a railroad track. I do it A, B, C, D. I don't do it D, B, A, C, A. It's always the same. A, B, C, D. I don't go to B until I've completed A. I don't know what those steps look like for each individual management situation, but there has to be clear steps. Or, you have to know what you're doing. First, you have to know what hours you're working, and then you have to know what your first step is when you get into your workspace.
Right.
And that's all I have.
Jessica, take all of the global tasks they give you by source, put them in a list for me, and you start copying these guys on every correspondence. You're corresponding directly with me. I can't help you out of the hole that way.
Okay.
All of us, group text, and I will answer you in these questions. So the first thing that you're going to do is all of you telemarketers are going to get introduced to this spreadsheet. And all of you are going to hear Autumn and I talking about it a lot more because I'm now managing Autumn and her metrics directly. I'm now managing Laura and the prospects and clients directly with Autumn. So I'm overseeing two simple spreadsheets, one for metrics and one for the names of people and their value. Okay, very important. And again, we're kind of, so here's where we're at, right? Got it?
Yep.
But Jess, help me, help them stop digging their own hole with you.
Okay.
You have to lean back on them. You have to lean back on them. Say, guys, just stop. I can't do the job like this. Stop. Everything's not a priority. Everything's not. Getting listings at or above the median is the #1 priority for that company. And that's why you were hired. So everything that they're dumping on you to do other than that first is a huge problem.
Okay.
As they say in Italian, capisce? Do you understand?
Capiche.
Yeah, because I don't want to leave you hanging. All right, now let me go listen to this call and let's see how it goes, because this is still on you to fill in that sheet and to get the scripting right and record these calls and just send them to them. Don't wait, right? Don't wait. Record, send. The one thing I loved about having David Ali Bud when I first started this, every single call he got on was in a Dropbox waiting for me at the end of every shift. So I was able to listen quickly, and that's when I understood, if you're not a real telemarketer, you can't do this job. Okay, so here we go.
Hello, Christine. Hey, Christine, this is Jessica with O'Connor Realty Group, Keller Williams. I'm calling because I saw your beautiful home online and noticed that it didn't sell. So I'd like to send out some information that will help you sell it next time. May I do that?
You most certainly can.
Love it.
Okay, good.
Beautiful.
You do know it's not a home, right? It's a farm.
Correct. Well,
Okay.
it's a farm. Yeah. Yeah, in our listing, it has a 5-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Then also it has 150 acres. Is that correct?
Yep.
Good.
Okay. And then what is the best mailing address?
W2781 County Road, and it's been in the family. It's a 5th generation farm.
Nice.
My son, he went into like spraying, custom spraying and that kind of stuff. And my daughter
Better talk.
is teaching, so neither one wanted to come back to the farm. And like I said, we're both in our late 50s. So we decided that now is probably a good time to get rid of it. And that's kind of what we're doing. Like if we both have health issues, he has a bad back, and I have a lot of health issues. I have diabetes and all that kind of stuff. So we said,
Okay.
we'll start getting rid of it.
Okay.
The
Yeah, I can
sooner
understand
the
with the
better.
diabetes, that's no fun.
No, and I
Okay.
have scoliosis on top of it, and so there's
Oh,
some
no.
days it's really hard to move. So, you can sell it as a dairy farm. My employees are willing to stay. If not, we've talked to them.
Okay. It's screaming for something here. So I'm going to see where you go. Okay.
Okay.
This is a super motivated person. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All sorts of reasons to move. Let's see where you take it.
Yeah, like I said, we've had it for sale for over a year. We
Okay.
had quite a few nibbles, but I
Okay.
think with the COVID thing.
Oh, don't do that to me. Of course it froze. Hang on. Shoot. Just what I wanted to not do. I like it a lot so far. She is telling you everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna hit you with an electric cattle prod if you don't close her for an appointment here.
Right.
Well,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're gonna get zapped. And this is gonna be where I lean back in on you, not just the boys, right? So let's see where you go.
Like I said, we've had it for sale for over a year. We
Okay.
had quite a few nibbles, but I
Okay.
think with the COVID thing, I don't think it's sold. Is what I think is what the biggest problem was. All the foreigners are kind of leery of purchasing, and a lot of the banks won't give them the money to purchase it.
Okay. How soon will you be, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, like, how motivated would you to sell between, like, a 1 and a 10?
A 10.
Amen.
A 10?
Yep.
Close.
Okay. Would you like Joe to hand deliver the packet of information?
Why are you asking like that? You sound so timid. This is like, she has not only put up a green light, she has put up a green banner. Yeah?
right.
This is a green banner. Why are you all of a sudden changing the tonality? Why do you sound timid?
I think I'm just used to like asking, like,
I don't think that's what it is,
Nice.
Jessica. I don't think that's what it is. I think you bought into her story and you're feeling something about all of her health problems, and now it's coming through. And it's just a suggestion, but I honestly think that that's what it is. You've sort of bought into her and you've set yourself back on your haunches. When you hear what they're telling, the minute they stop talking, your answer is, I understand. Let's do this. Since you're a 10, let's set an appointment for you to speak with blah, blah, blah. In other words, get right back on your pitch. I have sold more things in this world with 2 words. I understand. Now, as I was saying, so 6 words.
Yeah, I like that because when you made this transition and you, like, she's right. And look, you're an empathetic human. That's what I love about you.
And we all are, but
Yeah,
we have to
yeah.
stay business oriented. We
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
always remember why we're on the phone, because after a year, Jessica, you're going to have heard everything in
Yeah.
the health field
Yeah,
that,
right.
that you could possibly hear.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And your job is now to go into triage. Holy shit, this
Right.
thing needs to sell.
Right.
And I have the guy. So okay, stop. I understand. And I have the solution. I'm actually going to tell Joe to hand deliver this thing to the farm. These guys are expert at
Yep.
farm. They're like your family. They're multiple generation doing this. I'm going to have them hand deliver it. What's the best day?
Okay.
I mean,
Does-
you need to understand that is like, she's silently begging to be led here. She's looking for excuses. Why didn't it happen? COVID. Nope. It didn't happen because you didn't have the right guy. You don't have a plan. You need the plan. You need the guy. He's coming. You got to close this. So I want you to take this call and I want you to take it to Jerry, and I want you to hit 2 beats. Jerry, 1, he answered your question by saying, we're still not managing this, so he's not going to answer a question. However, Jerry, he caught me not closing. Here's an example of it, and here's what he taught me to do. Got it?
Got it.
Yeah. So I'm going to put it on you now. because he sent me, because they're busy guys trying to do 200 plus deals. I get why they struggle to manage. They're my friends now. I've had them for so long. So I'm not going to beat them up alone. They need to manage. That's on me and them. You need to manage this situation right here better.
Okay.
And you will get better at this as a default of dedicating specialized time to just this type of call. The more you can dedicate specialized time to this type of call, the better you'll get. You'll understand exactly the advice Autumn just gave you. This is you work for this moment right here, right? How much was this? How much is this property worth?
4.2 million.
Woo!
Oh, Jesus.
But she does have a realtor under contract until the 25th. So that was.
Oh, no,
what?
so what?
So what? So
Okay.
what? So what? So
I did
what?
mail a packet today though,
So what? How do you know she's expired?
because it was in the MLS. It
Okay.
was Aragon.
And so she expired or canceled? Why does she have some until the 25th?
I didn't ask that.
Oh,
Did
come
you see it on MLS? Did you see canceled or expired?
Expired.
Okay.
It's expired.
So don't worry about the other realtor.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Look, she's welcoming the information. Now, where
Right.
does this stand? Hold on. We're going to fix this live and in the moment. Where does this stand right now as of September 11, 2020? Where does it stand right now? What's
Like-
happening in this account?
I don't know.
Did you send the package?
Yep, I sent the packet today.
Okay, so you do know.
That's what's happening in the account, is you
Okay.
sent the package. Okay, so next step, and I know Danny's gonna tell you this, is get back on the phone. If it were me, I'd be back on the phone saying, look, I was talking to so-and-so, whatever the name of your individual broker is, and he really would like to meet with you. I may not say it exactly like that, but I'd get an appointment right away.
Immediately.
Okay.
Today, you're gonna hang up with me. You're gonna tell Jerry what this is, and you're gonna
Okay.
go get him in there.
Okay.
What do you know about Jerry's past and Joe's past as far as their ability to sell farms through auction, et cetera? What do you know? How attached are you to that value?
I know very little.
Okay, not good. And that's on them. See, that's why you're not closing this. Autumn and I have worked very tightly together over the last 18 months. She
Yes.
understands what I do. She knows she's sending in the lion, right? She knows.
And I know who he is.
Yeah.
And that has to be shared with you. They have to bring you into their circle somehow. I've been welcomed into Danny's life.
Yeah.
As far as business. Okay. I'm not talking about going to his house. I'm talking about as far as business. I know exactly what's happening with him.
Yeah. And I can
Okay.
feel their disconnect, Autumn. And they're not the first ones. That's what happened with Rebecca and Gail. They couldn't make that more intimate connection.
Right.
The value of Gail was completely lost on Rebecca.
And it wasn't that I wasn't available and we didn't talk every day.
Oh, I know that. I know
Yeah.
that. In your case, I know that. And this one is easily fixable because these are all good people. From
Yeah.
Jessica to the O'Connors, they can easily get connected. But see, this is the problem with management as it affects sales. Okay. So I don't want to digress off of sales too far here, but it does matter. If you are mismanaging something, you are directly and negatively affecting the outcome. If I did not have patience for Autumn's growth and process to become a real estate telemarketer, okay, then I was mismanaging it. So the more and more and more that I explain to her the value of knowing what I do and coming on these calls, and we just keep wiring tighter and tighter and tighter, and new scenarios come. And so you all want to think it might be years of experience. It's not.
No, it isn't.
It's the managed process that we go through. I mean, yesterday she had a rough day with technology, trying to get on. I stayed patient. I stopped the entire mastermind call for Autumn. I just stopped. And I said, this is so critical that I need to manage this moment with patience, get this resolved. And we had an outstanding call yesterday based on understanding this flow, why it matters to know the metrics, what her thoughts were as somebody who does it, how it relates to seeing the names better, how we improve technology together. If you don't continue to beat on that on an assembly line, where relationships are being manufactured, you are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of opportunity. So I'm going to tell you, like I told Autumn, we hired you because we trust you to manage parts of your process. Okay. You can clearly hear here exactly what she said. You fell into the human relationship so deeply you forgot your job.
Right.
You forgot your job.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So let's listen to a little bit more and we'll go from there.
And then look over your property to see what it would sell for.
We have a realtor, I think until her date is I want to say like the 25th.
You have an old script there.
That's been working with, that we have a contract with her.
Where did you start getting that old script from? That they'll come over and tell you what it's worth? And no, they'll come over and figure out what went wrong. They'll come over and give you a copy of their plan. They'll come over and express to you the ways that they've auctioned farms. We're back to some weird language again, right?
You've lost
I
your
remember what-
authority, Tone. You've lost the authority.
Yep.
Okay, because I can, I think of what Jerry's saying and then what you're saying, and then it's just like.
Well, you tell Jerry I said, you're not going to say what Jerry told you to say. You're not.
You still have to find your way, Jessica. No matter what you're hearing, you need to know what your job is very well, and you need to shoot through and do it anyway. Because
Okay.
there's always going to be voices talking. You got to really know what your job is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but Jerry's not going up against what I'm saying. He's frustrated that he's not seeing an appointment. Well, here's the reason why, right?
Right.
This should have been an appointment already. So I agree with him in this moment. That's why I want you to bring it to him. Say, okay, we found it. This is why we do this coaching and training. This is why we go through this. I found a call. That's an example where I'm not closing when it's there. I probably could have closed. I picked. And by the way, before you even show this to him, go pick up the phone and say, it's really bugging me. I really think Jerry should just bring this thing over to you. He's great at this. This is what he does. Or go to him first and say, Jerry, I've got to be the one that makes the call, even if you're on the other line. Okay?
Okay.
And then call them and say, when are you, Jerry has to come and talk to you because time, whatever. But say, when are you available? Just close right then. When are you available for a half an hour or whatever?
Mhm.
She'll do it. She's a 10.
Yep. Just say you gotta hear from this guy. This is his thing. He's been doing farms, and you gotta have Jerry sell you on who he is.
Right.
And you don't know who they are.
I just know bits and pieces, but not like.
That's not remotely close enough. When you're trying to sell an appointment of that person's value, think about the insanity in that.
Well,
right?
I'm Danny's voice, Jessica. You have to be Jerry's voice. You have to be. I'm
Okay.
Danny's presentation. When I ring their phone, I'm Danny.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
That's true. So, and again, that's not, this is good. This is good discovery take, an extremely important analysis here with you. Extremely. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Then I did have a question when it comes to comps. For where she was at, there wasn't a lot of sold listings for the price that she's asking for.
Yep.
So do I break up the comps as to like how?
It's another reason to just close for the appointment. Say, look, you have such a unique property. I really think Jerry needs to lay eyes on it.
Yeah, let Jerry do it. Let him come
Okay.
over with
Once
material.
it goes beyond just doing a circle and, radius and having enough things of what the money bought, even more reason to sell Jerry as the pro, right?
Okay.
Even more reason. So there you go. You know what? By the way, here's what I'm going to offer you because I got to end the call here. At the end of the day today, you three can call me if you text me, okay? And we can go right at this right now. We can have a private coaching call about this very situation because I think we can kill a lot of issues all at once while it's hot in my mind.
Okay.
Reach out to them, say he wants to immediately do a quick conference call, at least with you and Jerry.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
I can do that. Yep.
Good job. Good job. You're
Thanks.
so close. I know it doesn't feel like it to you because you probably feel beaten up. You're really close to getting this right.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks,
Well-
everyone.
Yeah, Yep.
It
you're
just
right.
takes a little bit of faith, Jessica. I know that when it comes to the close, it's almost like you're standing on the edge of a cliff and you've got to leap over the chasm, and it's scary, but you got to just do it.
Yep.
Right.
Love it. Yeah. And Gail, I think it's sort of like, what we were talking about on your end with Amanda too. There's certainly parts of this, ladies, you just don't know what you don't know. So I'm just trying to discover what you don't know and rush you to it. But also, I get aggressive when I'm trying to attack paradigms of fear or self-image or whatever, but you don't know this stuff yet. And as you do, the key is to put those hours in each week so you don't atrophy back. You go right at it with the stuff I give you, you attack it, you get better, and you can feel like Gail said this beautifully at the beginning. I want to see progression. That's the key. I always want to see progression. It might feel like it's getting more micro as time goes on, but progression matters. So let's try to progress you by using you as the example today. You and Amanda, you rush in, Jessica, right now, emergency with the bat phone with Danny. Okay. All right. Final questions, anybody? Something's really burning and you need to hear from me, because I went a little OT with that last one because I thought it was really good. Okay. Hearing none. Everybody have a good weekend. Please go out and practice this stuff. Like I said, otherwise you come in here soft the next week and we're starting from scratch. But good work here, ladies especially. And Gail will continue to beat on, I think trying to think about this mind map a little bit next week. Maybe in the helpline, we think a little bit how to get some of the basic stuff that we can fall back on seller and buyer stuff so that contextually, we don't get thrown off so many lines, right? So many lines, so little time.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. See you later. Have a great weekend.
All right. You
Thanks, Danny, too.
Danny.
Bye.